Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27 as per usual, and today I've got a bit of a special video because, well, I'm doing a tutorial on how to use the 3D printer. Dale Tippett of the Optimus Prime cast is a close friend of mine. I've mentioned him several times before on this channel, and I will undoubtedly mention him several times more in the future. However, I owe him a debt of gratitude that I haven't repaid him yet, for two things. Firstly, he and the church that we work at have allowed me to use the office spaces here for my live streams and videos for the past few weeks, and last month, Dale in particular helped me purchase a new 3D printer. And while I've been having a blast 3D printing out stuff like a popsicle stand, a furnace for Solus Prime to use along with an anvil, and plenty of weapons and other accessories, I haven't exactly done much that Dale wants to get done. However, there's good news for Dale. Over the next 2 weeks, I will be in North Carolina visiting my grandparents, meaning there'll be absolutely no obstacles stopping him from using the 3D printer. But Dale has also expressed his concerns in using the 3D printer because, well, he's never used one, as I'm sure many of you haven't either. And so I hope to use this video to teach you all how to use a 3D printer for yourselves, regardless of whenever it may be that you find yourself needing to use one.
That was just word salad, Ryan.
I mean, what else is new, but fair enough. Let's just move on to the point of this video. The 3D printer is a marvelous piece of machinery to use. It can make whatever your heart desires, especially if you're a fan of Transformers like Dale and I are. That's because most Transformers these days use 5mm ports for their hands. And believe me, designing weapons that fit into 5mm ports is very easy. The first step of 3D printing is to build your 3D printer. However, I have an entire live stream, so I'm just gonna link to that in the I button above. The second step of the process is actually finding something to create, whether it's for a Transformer or not. As such, you can either design the item yourself on a program like Blender, or you can take your business to Thingiverse. Thingiverse is a website that offers a huge repository of 3D printable items. If you want something on the website, you can get it here for absolutely free, and if you're so inclined, leave a tip for the designer. However, once you have your STL file, don't ask me what that's an acronym for, I do not know, you can then download a slicer program from the internet and use it to create a path for the 3D printer to follow. Some programs are even nice enough to turn the path into a little video for you to watch. However, a lot of these programs aren't just drag and drops. You have to adjust the settings in a lot of them. Now, because both my 3D printer is a Creality model and because it's just easier to use, I will be showing you how to adjust settings in the Creality slicer. Also, in case you decided to put this video on as background noise and didn't actually decide to watch it, you can download the Creality slicer on Creality's website. The most important parts are the sliders at the top and the two boxes to check at the bottom. The top slider adjusts layer height, which in layman's terms is just how many times the printer is going to have to move vertically and apply new layers to the print. And the bottom slider controls density, aka how much of the finished print is plastic and how much of it is just hollow air pockets. Now listen to me closely on this one. Don't set the second slider to 100%. That is wasteful, and it's going to take a lot more time to finish the print that way. Believe me, in my experience, all you really need is 20% infill in order to create a stable structure. And for the last two at the bottom, these are the bed adhesion and support structures. The bed adhesion basically creates a little plastic skirt for the item, which exists to ensure that the nozzle doesn't tear the print off the bed. Support structures, meanwhile, just ensure that the print has something to print on top of in case there's like, you know, a bend in the middle of the item. Now, in most situations, the bed adhesion is a debatable waste of plastic. Fairly large items will require very little bed adhesion because, well, they are the bed adhesion. That's how much surface area there is. Smaller and thinner items, however, will need bed adhesion because, well, they're smaller and thinner. There's a higher likelihood that the nozzle will just tear them off the printer bed. However, the support structure is, in my opinion, mandatory for the most part. There are a lot of times where you need the extra support. Anyways, once you've created a slicer path for the program with a G-code file, slap that sucker onto a micro SD cartridge or whatever the 3D printer uses in order to get its data, eject it from your computer, then remove whatever adapter cable you had to use in order to get it hooked up to your computer in the first place, and then slap it into the 3D printer. However, we can't just start printing right away, no, because presumably you haven't put any plastic filament in. In order to swap or install a spool of filament, just go to the change filament setting on the printer. Some 3D printers automate most of the process, others, like the Ender 3 here, are a bit more manual. It will remove part of the spool, but you'll have to remove it the rest of the way, and install the next spool the most of the way as well. In order to make sure that the loading process for the filament is as smooth as possible, please cut the end at this angle. This ensures that when it is pushed forward by the gears, that it aligns itself with the hole. Do be warned though, swapping out filaments mid-print isn't advised, mostly because it usually doesn't work. Though if you cut it with the angle facing the opposite direction, then there's a chance that it might push the filament out of alignment and you get it all over the place. And sometimes the filament just breaks mid-print and unaligns itself. That really sucks. Both of these will cause the print to stop midway, leaving you with something like this. The 3D print on your right is the completed version that had everything go smoothly from start to finish, while the item on your left was a 3D print that had the filament snap halfway through. And that's all you need to do in order to get your 3D print started. The next step of the process is to scroll down through the menu and select the Print from Card option on the menu. Then simply scroll down through the menu to the file that you want to print and select it, and then start the printing process. From there, you can manually adjust the printing speed. However, be warned, raising the printing speed can also decrease the quality of the final print. Furthermore, do not touch the print in any way whatsoever during the printing process. No punches, no slaps, no flicks, no taps, no gentle caresses in order to try and lure it into a false sense of security. It will result in several of the layers printing out of alignment and it will just make the final product look ugly. Once it's done, sure, touch it all you want. Remove it from the bed and sand it, do whatever you want to it. Just please, for the sake of all that sleeps and festers in both Riley and Unknown Cadet, just do not touch your 3D print when it is printing, or the filament gets tangled. I am not sure what causes this, but I have it on good authority that if you manually unspool the plastic filament, it increases the likelihood of the filament getting tangled. And yeah, that's basically how you 3D print something. I could definitely go into more detail on a few subjects, and I probably will in the future, but this is all I really have time for before I leave on vacation. So forgive me if it's not as in-depth as I would like it to be. Anyways, if you have other questions, leave them in the comments. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. And with that being said, this is Firebite27 over and out. See you in a few weeks!